Hello, my name's Andy Dow, and I'm presenting our work on behalf of my co-authors Kyle Montague, Shauna Kincannon and John Vines, and I'll be talking about how we were scaffolding young people's participation in public service evaluation through designing a digital feedback process. So a little bit about the motivation for this work. So the young people that we were working with often faced marginalisation through having certain types of disability, through being a young carer or a young parent, or being excluded from school. Such young people might often rely on services for support, and in England there has been, with a succession of governments, a chronic lack of investment in public service provision in England. This has led to a very mixed economy of care service provision, with voluntary and community sector organisations, or VCOs, often coming to fill the gap in provision. And those organisations do rely for their funding on a competition for awards, for applying to funding pots from local government, national government, from different places. Often those awards come with a stipulation to demonstrate some kind of user engagement and participation in shaping how services are delivered. And this, of course, comes against the backdrop of a vibrant voluntary youth sector in England that is committed and underpinned by values of being responsive to users, of being user-led, listening to the people that make use of their services. For our own background, we are HCI researchers, particularly interested in the emerging area of digital civics, which sees a range of projects aimed at creating new infrastructures for creating new pathways for civic engagement, capturing and recording civic dialogue and debate, raising awareness about local issues, technologies that help people or non-experts to collect data, to create an evidence base to affect change in relation to local issues, and in particular work by Peacock et al. Exploring youth inclusion in decision-making processes. Our work has involved working very closely with groups of young ambassadors. Who are our young ambassadors? These are groups of young people who have been brought together by project work with local councils, with the aim of getting them involved in evaluating local services. So looking at ways that we can capture their experience about services, getting their feedback and thoughts on service provision. Our approach to address this, we follow and build on Meng et al.'s their conception of community-based participatory design. So community-based in that we were working in a very embedded way within a community, within community groups, working very closely with the young people who were our main end users, and employing participatory design for its inclusive and emancipatory values that underpin its use. That resulted in a 20-month-long engagement with project partners, not just with our initial group of young ambassadors, but with two further groups of young people interested who's working with organisations interested in supporting young people to have a say about public services. All in all, we ran 12 workshops involving 24 young people altogether, aged between 11 and 24, and that resulted in us bringing together some prototype data collection software, an app called Appraise, that we tested out with young people on field trials where they went out into the world with different digital tools that we're trying out to capture data about services that they were interested in, and to capture their experiences in relation to those. And we rounded that off with 14 stakeholder interviews. This is the final version of the Appraise prototype. So very quickly here you can see it allows you to set up an appraisal, which is what we call an evaluation. So you can decide what it is you're evaluating. So one of the visits that our young people went on was to evaluate a job centre. You can say why you're appraising. You can invite your friends or family to appraise with you, add them to the appraisal, and then they can contribute to an appraisal by capturing images, capturing video, capturing audio. So altogether our young people got on very well collecting data with the Appraise app. They were able to go to 4 events altogether. And capture, as you can see, mostly photographs, some videos, very few audios, with the app that they could then bring back and go through to help create these evaluative reports. Now, this long study resulted in a very large data corpus, as you might imagine. These are the main findings that we report in the paper. I don't have enough time to go through all these findings here, so I'm just going to pick out that you might be interested in just hearing a little bit more about. So thinking about what were the challenges with capturing digital media with Appraise. So of course, our young people were very enthusiastic to go along to events to capture media, were very confident to do this, but soon found that can be socially awkward in a particular space, to suddenly be putting the camera in front of people, to be asking people for interviews about service provision, whatever they decided they were going to collect with the app while they were there. Also, we found some contextual barriers and constraints. As you might imagine, you can't just go into a job centre and take out your phone and start recording things as well. And as this media showed here captures that there's a lot of restrictions in the spaces and places where public services are provided to contend with. But our young people were up to the challenge of coming up with workarounds. So to address some of that social awkwardness, we saw young people going up to people, instead of recording a video and carrying out an interview, just speaking to people and getting a quote off them and then writing that down and taking a photograph. Then that became part of the data that they collected. And then also, instead of directly photographing or interviewing people, young people worked together to capture the information that was on display at different events. But something that we thought was really good was that we saw that insights come off the back of some of these. And so I'd like to share this quote. A social enterprise manager that was interviewed said that he could appreciate when he saw a recording of a young person talking about the music that was playing in the gym where they were working. He could immediately see how he could respond to that, saying, I appreciate that, and we could change that. Like the music thing, if we had an iPad that was linked to iTunes or Spotify, I think that would really be good, and I'll probably take that on board, to be honest. So we had these moments from carrying out the process, presenting this information in this way to service providers. We had these moments of insight and these very pragmatic actions that could be taken off the back of it. And that leads us to reflect that through Appraise and through the plan and the cycles of Plan, Do, Study, Act that structured its use with young people, that was able to not only shape but reshape young people's participation with public services. And we saw how through the app young people could build their capacity to participate in evaluation processes. We also saw how having a particular process where young people could come in and out at different stages, that this was successful in addressing the very fluid nature of such groups. Some people, perhaps through ill health, aren't able to come to all of the different stages, but through Appraise they were able to see a record of a visit that people had gone on. Or if they weren't able to go on the visit, they were able to take part in going through the data for the presentation for the report. And we saw that this allowed for a more flexible participation that could take place over a longer period of time. And this leads us to recommend that such technologies need to allow young people with different disabilities to contribute and participate to an extent that is comfortable for them, and through that lift and reconfigure the barriers of true participation. Thank you very much to all our project partners. Thank you to you for listening. I'll be very happy to answer any questions.